Hello all. I am Mrs. Gloria Jemmy Christabel, Assistant Professor, Department of Biochemistry, VV Vani Perumal College for Women, Virudhunagar. This e-lecture is going to be about mushroom harvesting. Mushroom farming is one of the most profitable agribusiness that you can start with a low investment and less space. Mushroom farming in India is growing gradually as an alternative source of income for many people worldwide. Worldwide, US, China, Italy, and Netherlands are the top producers of mushrooms. In India, Uttar Pradesh is the leading producer of mushrooms, followed by Tripura and Kerala. Button mushrooms are grown seasonally and in environment controlled cropping houses. White button mushroom requires 20 to 28 degrees Celsius for vegetative growth and 12 to 18 degrees Celsius for reproductive growth. Besides that, it requires a relative humidity of 80 to 90% and enough ventilation during cropping. Seasonally, it is grown during winter months in the northwest plains of India and for 8 to 10 months in a year on the hills. However, with the advent of modern cultivation technology, it is now possible to cultivate this mushroom anywhere in India. The growers can take on average 3 to 4 crops of white button mushrooms in a year depending upon the type and varieties cultivated. Factors affecting the yield of the crop, both in terms of quality and quantity, are the pests and the pathogens and non-availability of pure quality of the spawn. Mushrooms contain more protein than fruits and vegetables, and mushroom can also be low in cholesterol. Apart from their protein content, mushrooms are high in certain vitamins like B, C, D, riboflavin, thiamine, nicotinic acid. Also, they are excellent sources of iron and potassium. So, they are considered to be the elevator of the blood hemoglobin. There are two types of mushroom growers in India. Seasonal farmers produce in small scale, while commercial farmers produce mushrooms in large scale. Mostly, both develop white button mushrooms and they are exported to the domestic market. The seasonal button mushroom growers are restricted to temperate regions like Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, hilly areas of Uttar Pradesh, and hilly areas in Tamil Nadu and northeastern areas. So coming to the steps involved in the mushroom farming, so these steps are all already dealt with the other e-content in the other e-content modules. There are six steps in mushroom farming. The first one is making mushroom compost. Second is finishing the compost. Third is spawning. Fourth is casing. Fifth is spinning. And the final one is the cropping, or nothing but the harvesting. So in a very short time period, about 2 months of composting, you will be able to harvest the healthy grown mushrooms. Usually, first harvesting is done to collect only overgrown mushrooms. So, very care must be taken while picking up the mushrooms. Healthy mushrooms should be picked with hands softly because they are fragile in nature. So, if they are not picked softly, then their quality could not be maintained. And consumers always they look for the fresh, healthy, and white button mushrooms because they pay a very large amount for this. For picking them carefully, you can also employ skilled laborers. Care should be taken for the availability of the gills during the mushroom harvesting. So these are the mushrooms with gills and mushroom without gills. So always mushroom without gills are highly expected to be marketing because these gills they produce spores and they are not suitable for eating, so they may cause food poison. So always mushrooms without gills are preferable and it is healthy. So you will be able to cultivate the mushrooms within a month and you'll be able to harvest them 3 to 4 times in a month. You can pick them at regular intervals like once a week or at an interval of 10 days. However, it is a good idea to pick them on the basis of the growth. So, pinning and harvesting is a very important concept during mushroom harvesting. So, always after the stage of pinning, the harvesting of mushroom is continued. So, as you can look into the picture, so this is the pinning stage of the mushroom. That is, mushroom initials develop after rhizomorphs have formed in the casing. The initials are extremely small but can be seen as outgrowths on a rhizomorph. Once an initial quadruples in size, the structure is called as pin. Pins continue to expand and grow larger through the button stage, and ultimately a button enlarges into a mushroom. Harvestable mushrooms appear 18 to 21 days after casing. Pins develop when the carbon dioxide content of room air is lowered to 0.08% or lower, depending on the cultivar, by introducing fresh air into the growing room. Outside air has carbon dioxide content of about 0.04%. The timing of fresh air introduction is very important and is something learned only through the experience. Generally, it is best to ventilate as little as possible until the mycelium has begun to show at the surface of the casing, and to stop watering at the time when the pin initials are forming. If the carbon dioxide is lowered too early, by airing too soon, the mycelium will stop growing through the casing and mushroom initials form below the surface of the casing, which will not be useful. As such, mushrooms continue to grow, they push through the casing and are dirty at the time of the harvesting. Too little moisture can also result in mushrooms forming below the surface of the casing. So it is very important to maintain the moisture content and the carbon dioxide content. Pinning affects both the potential yield and quality of a crop, and it is a significant step in the production cycle, and this pinning is very important for the proper mushroom harvesting. The terms flush, break, or bloom are the names given to the repeating 3 to 5 day harvest periods during the cropping cycle. These are followed by a few days when no mushrooms are available to harvest. This cycle repeats itself in a rhythmic fashion, and harvesting can go on as long as mushrooms continue to mature. Most mushroom farmers harvest for 35 to 42 days, although some harvest a crop for 60 days, and harvest can go on for as long as 150 days too. The relative humidity in the growing rooms should be high enough to minimize the drying of casing, but not so high as to cause the cap surfaces of developing mushroom to be clammy or sticky. Water is applied to the casing so water stress does not hinder the developing mushrooms. In commercial practice, this means watering 2 to 3 inches 3 times each week. Each watering may consist of more or fewer gallons depending on the dryness of the casing, the cultivar being grown, and the stage of development of the pins, buttons, or mushrooms. The more mycelial growth, the more carbon dioxide produced, and since more growth occurs early in the crop, more fresh air is needed during the first 2 breaks. So the amount of fresh air also depends on the growing mushrooms, the area of the producing surface, the amount of the compost in the growing room, and the conditioner or composition of the fresh air being introduced. It takes approximately 14 weeks to complete an entire production cycle from the start of the composting to the final steaming off after harvesting has ended. Final yield depends on how well a grower has monitored and controlled the temperature, humidity, pests, and so on. All things considered, the most important factors for good production appear to be experience plus an initiative feel for the biological rhythms of the commercial mushroom. The production system used to grow a crop can be chosen after the basics of the mushroom growing are introduced. Thank you.